Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
Awesome. Thank you everybody for coming. Super excited about this. Love to see a lot of our members in here participating. And by members, I mean Betaworks Studios members. So I am the events director for Betaworks Studios. We are a private membership club for people who are working in startup, investment, entrepreneurship, consulting. And typically we're a physical club. Right now, obviously, we're moving things virtual. So we're really excited to have a bunch of cool events on the docket. And today's event actually came to us because our member, Dave Renz, who's up there on the screen, hi, Dave, he does a lot of stuff with remote work. I believe your team is entirely remote, right, Dave?
That is correct.
Yeah, so he's well versed in it. And when we were working on, kind of coming up with some ideas around virtual events, we reached out to Dave, thought it would be a great time for us all to kind of regroup, revisit how we're doing virtual meetings, get some tips, best practices. I would love to hear more about what I can do better with virtual events because I'm definitely not a pro yet, but I'm working on it. Even just this intro with the holding slide and the music, I think was an awesome way to kind of start the meeting, set the tone, get people talking. So really excited about this. Both Dave and Tony, who's also on the screen and hosting the event, are going to take us through some like best practices, tips, a little bit of information about GoRemote, which is Dave's product company. And it's going to be really fun and participatory. And I'm super excited for it. So I'm going to throw it over to Tony now, who's going to take it away.
Great. Thank you so much, Kit, and thank you to everybody who is here in this program. I know every minute of Zoom screen time that we are spending these days is one more than we wish we were in these circumstances, but really grateful for you taking the time to join us today. My name's Tony Bacigalupo. I've been friends with Dave and the GoRemote team for a great many years. I used to run a co-working space in New York City called New Work City, and it was actually Manhattan's first co-working space. And so we were OGs, and Dave and his team were working in our space for a good number of years. So we've spent a lot of time together in person and online. And I've got just tons of experience building community both in person and on the internet. I've been a remote worker since 2007, 2006 even, and I've been a community builder of all forms. So when Dave and his team launched GoRemote and we started talking about doing event programming consulting, we noticed just a great opportunity. So we're working together to help people produce events online and forge meaningful connection. And so part of what we're here to do today is to tell you a little bit about how we do that, show you a few things you can apply to your own experiences, and then answer whatever questions you have. And Dave's going to show you a little bit about how he runs his team as well. So Dave, do you want to just introduce yourself real quick and I'll take us into the rest of the meeting?
Sounds great. Thanks, Tony. Hi, everyone. Thanks, everyone, for joining. As Tony mentioned, I'm Dave Renz. So I'm co-founder of GoRemote, which is, as Tony mentioned, a kind of consulting services company that we've spun up recently in light of so many firms, so many organizations needing help transitioning from everyone being in the office to everyone being remote. And lots of ins and outs to that, and it varies quite a lot for varying types of organizations. So get in there to try to help folks in a tailored way figure out how to best operate. The reason we started doing that and the reason we felt like that we had some of the knowledge to do so is, as Kit mentioned earlier, I'm also a co-founder of a company called Tanuki Labs. And at Tanuki Labs, we are a remote development and design agency. We work primarily with startups. So we're kind of like a technical co-founder for hire for a bunch of early stage companies. And we started Tanuki 8 years ago and have operated it mostly as basically as a remote company. Our entire development team is remote, based in North America, so US and Canada. We have some folks in New York, but primarily we operate entirely remotely. We're on Hangouts, tends to be our tool of choice for video sometimes. But anyway, so we have a ton of experience having done this for years across 130 different client projects, all of which we've operated remotely. So yeah, excited to share a lot of things that we've picked up over the years. So thanks, Tony.
All right, thanks, Dave. And so, just so y'all know, this is going to be an interactive thing. Don't expect that we're just going to be talking to you for this hour. We're going to be asking you to actually get up out of your seat and get some things and move around a little bit and interact with each other. So, just so you know, that's coming, and I'll explain more about that in a moment. And we'll be doing some interactive retrospective as well. So just some quick housekeeping. So we've got the Zoom screen here on the upper right corner. You can hit speaker view or gallery view. So if you want to just see the person speaking, or if you want to see all of us, it's an important kind of distinction for certain aspects of this. When all of us are talking, you're going to want to probably switch to gallery view and see all the cool things everyone's up to. Otherwise, all the rest of the features should be pretty self-explanatory. Yeah, let's just jump right into it. So first of all, a little bit about why this is important right now. Obviously, we're all going through this crazy situation. Everybody's shifting to working online if you haven't been already. And people are gathering online now. And a whole lot of people are now needing to figure out how to provide value to their communities, to their customers in a way that maybe they weren't expecting to before. And so in a very sudden fashion, we're all scrambling to figure out how best to do a good job of engaging people, whether it's our team or whether it's our customers and communities, through these new digital forms of media in ways that maybe we weren't used to. And we're already running into a lot of issues. For one, there's just the basics. Everybody's just getting the hang of using these new platforms. There's a lot of headaches. There's a lot of things that we're trying to deal with. And the fact that, we're in a giant crisis and everyone's dealing with a lot of the complications around that. And so alongside all of this, there's been a lot of innovation. There's been a lot of stuff that's been changing. Even Betaworks Studios has so quickly already produced dozens of events online in very short order, which is really impressive. And what we're seeing is, for one, there's been all kinds of great new innovation, but in order for things to really stick, we need to be able to go a little bit further than what a lot of things are currently doing. If we're all just spending hours and hours consuming content on Zoom without any kind of quality facilitated connection, then we're going to burn out and we're going to have a hard time really getting people to connect and get engaged. And so a big part of what we're here to show you and to model is just little bits of tips of how we do that. And part of that is accounting for the fact that we're all humans and that we can show a bit of our humanity maybe in ways that we couldn't before. So a lot of that comes back to the physical sense of place. Right now, we can't physically be in the same place, and that restricts us tremendously in certain ways. However, oh my God, Kit, I just saw you say you're going to play guitar. That's right. We have live music performance with Kit and Dave coming up.
I'm getting a lot of messages about how Dave and I both have guitars in frame.
And I can't play mine, so.
I can't either, Dave. That's perfect.
So and this is a perfect example, is that we get to humanize a little bit because we get to see just a little insight into our worlds. And so even just here, we get to kind of laugh about the fact that there's a guitar in the background, and okay, maybe you don't play it, but there's a reason it's there. Is there a loved one who plays it? Now we get to ask these questions, get to know a little bit about each other. You might be curious why I'm such a fan of the letter C. We can get into that later. I'm at my lady's place and she's laughing right now. So, oh, we could turn it on. Do you want to turn it on? So creating this sense of place helps humanize us. And that is something we can take advantage of and where we can create deeper connection. So our first interactive activity is going to be about playing with that a little bit. And so the challenge that you're going to have right now that I'm going to ask you to do in a moment is that we're going to do a little scavenger hunt in our homes, in our spaces right now. And so if you don't have your camera on, please turn it on if you're game. And I'm going to ask you to go find something nearby. All right, we got people camera on. Very good. More camera ons, the better. Hello, Betsy. Hello, Tyler. Thank you, Paula. Thank you, Mia. Welcome, welcome, welcome. All right, so the game is this. You are going to be looking for an object close by that is the color green. So that's what you got. You got about a minute to do it. You're going to have to probably get up out of your seat to do this. I'm going to do this too. So just go ahead and look for something in your space with the color green in it. Go. Okay. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. This is great. Oh, we're off to a great start. All right. All right. When you've got your thing, please hold it up to the screen. I am definitely grabbing a screenshot of this because this is brilliant. Oh my goodness. All right. All right. Here we go. All right. 1, 2, 3. All right. Excellent. Okay. Who is very excited?
Oh my God, the Purell.
Okay. Hang on. Joy, I saw something on your screen. What did you have, Joy? Do you have a giant thing of what was that? I'm going to unmute you. All right. And I'm going to put you on spotlight. Go ahead. Tell us about your thing.
Clubhouse Crackers box.
Are those a particular favorite brand of yours or what?
My boyfriend was snacking on them about 20 minutes ago, and when you said something green, I just scanned the room. There they were, and that was that.
I love it. I love it. Gordon, what have you got for us? Oh, no, I lost you. Where'd you go? Okay, Gordon, hang on. I'm going to unmute you and go ahead.
It's a flex band for exercising and therapy.
Nice. And do you use it? Is it helpful?
I do.
Awesome. Thank you, Gordon.
Mhm.
All right. Who's got something that they're excited to share? I saw people. Oh, Tyler, I want to know about your N64 controller for sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's my N64 controller, but I have no one to play it with.
Oh, no.
But I'm really proud of it.
What is your favorite N64 game?
Mario Kart.
Yeah, that's my man. I love it. All right. Very good. We got some +1s for Mario Kart. That's good. Who else has something they want to share? Anybody?
I can share my turkey butter dish.
Oh, please share your turkey butter dish.
This is my turkey butter dish.
Okay. Well, what is the story? Is it like a family heirloom or like you bought it at
I'm
Target?
at my boyfriend's right now, and the last time we went to visit his mom, he told his mom that he really needed a butter dish. And she was like, go in the basement. I have like 50 of them. And she did. And I picked the green turkey.
That's brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant. I will just show off that since I'm at my lady's place, there are many reasons that my lady's amazing. And not least of them is that she has a very impressive collection of Muppet Show DVDs, including these and then many more. And so I'm very happy to be slowly working my way through the entire catalog of Muppet Show episodes. So that is definitely helping to pass the time. All right, great. So that was really fun. Thank you all for participating in that. I am going to check the time real quick to see if we have time for one more exercise. Kit is nodding yes. No? Yeah? Okay. Great. So let's do one more real quick one, which is anything that is just meaningful to you personally. So if there's something around that is maybe old or just special to you in some way, and I'm realizing I did not plan for this, so I don't know what the thing is that's meaningful to me that I can grab, but why don't you work on that? Wow. Oh my goodness, look at all of you. Oh boy, Yuval, I want to know what you got. All right, we could start showing off while you're still searching. Yuval, I'm gonna unmute you.
I'm taking this opportunity to promote that you're on our podcast, but the first thing that came to mind was that my podcast recording stuff has been very meaningful to me right now, just because we've been able to do a lot during this time, and it's nice to be able to carry it with us. And Tony's going to be on our show, so it felt relevant to pop it out of the shelf.
Yay! Thank you, Yuval. I appreciate the shout. Oh my goodness, Joy, tell me about what your special thing is.
Betaworks members have already seen this sweet face, but this is the most meaningful thing I have in the house right now.
Oh,
Apart from my boyfriend and my mother right now. So
what's your wonderful
he's getting
name?
comfortable with making appearances on Zoom. So
Yeah, absolutely. Puppers love Zooms. Great. All right. Who has something that they're excited to share? Anybody have something? Oh, Steve, you've got something nice and framed there. And then we'll go to Annalisa. Steve, what you got?
I just recently framed this poster I had for a while, a Springsteen poster. Totally not relevant to this talk, but it's meaningful to me. It's pretty cool.
Steve, I am a huge Springsteen fan.
Really?
Huge. Yeah, I'm from New Jersey.
I'm from Brooklyn, but I moved to New Jersey, so it's all good.
You're allowed to claim him.
All right, Annalisa, we'll go to you real quick.
This is my nephew. Isn't he cute?
Aw, he's adorbs.
I put his picture next to my computer because I needed a little bit of joy while I work.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Thank you, Annalisa. Anybody else like really psyched to share something that they found? Oh, Paula, what have you got for us, Paula? Hang on, let me unmute and go.
It is a little lamp that's made out of the backlight of a mini car, which was like a 1960s tiny little English car that was made.
Wow, cool.
I'm in a room that I never normally sit in. Like normally my partner sits and works down here, and so since I've been working from home, I'm like, oh, I never come in here, and like, oh, I've got all these fun things I don't normally look at.
That's awesome. Well, thanks for that, Paul. And thanks to all of you for getting up and sharing a little bit of your world with us. I feel like you're all a little bit less of a stranger now. And I hope you all feel like you're connected to each other a little bit more. So that's just a really quick and dirty, tiny, tiny, tiny sliver of an example of how even just a room full of strangers can feel a little bit more connected in just a few minutes without using, anything crazy. And really just taking advantage of the fact that we're all in these spaces where we've got stuff that we can go find. So you could see where for your team, for your community, you could facilitate a very similar activity. And with a little bit more continuity, people start to really just get to know each other better and better. And so part of what I'm excited to be doing with my clients in the coming months and weeks and days is to be integrating these kinds of things into, company happy hours and things like that, so that people are able to feel a little bit more connected. Yeah, I'd say that's about it for my section of the presentation right now. Does anybody have any quick questions on like what just happened, or any quick comments on how that was for you before we move on? And then Dave, I'll throw to you if you want to queue up the board. Okay.
I liked it.
Thanks, Kit.
Yeah, it's really fun. I feel like Annalisa just said, we all brought out our childlike joy.
Yeah, it's funny how quick that shows up, right? One thing that we've done recently, we've been having fun with toasts. So actually, I did a birthday party over video earlier this week, and I had everybody find their favorite like vessel, and it could be like a mug or a collector's cup or something. And we all got to explain our mug, and then we all did a coordinated toast together, which was a nice little ritual. So things like that. Great. Okay, so feel free to keep using the chat for any feedback as we go, and any other comments or reflections. Always very curious to hear what you have to say. But in the meantime, I want to throw it over to Dave, who is going to take us through how they do a remote retrospective for their team. And Dave, I'll let you explain it before I fumble it. So Dave, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Tony. And that was fun. I didn't get to mention my object, but I found a Rubik's Cube here, which I've been playing with recently. New Corona hobby. So
Dave, you look like you are like annoyingly close to it being finished.
Oh, well, it's a problem because it goes in, there's phases, and I am like on the last phase that gets really hard, apparently, which I'm still learning. So
wow,
you're right.
I'm mystified.
Thank you for sharing my frustration and my joy. Cool. Well, all right. Well, thanks everyone for joining and participating so far. And so as Tony was saying, one of the things that I thought would be helpful to share is a bit of how we overall manage not just projects, but also our company more broadly speaking. And this was a tool that we originally started using because as a software development firm, Tanuki Labs, We typically do an agile style of a development process, if anyone's kind of familiar with kind of modern software development. But if not, it's essentially an ethos and a framework and a set of techniques and tools to help people manage software projects in a more fluid sort of manner. And so one of the tools that is purported by this agile development methodology is a tool called the retrospective. And this was something that it essentially is a way for project teams to come together and to share feedback in a safe place. So we all have projects that we're working on with a number of other people, and over time, things come up, right? Good things, bad things. We get frustrated working with each other. People get frustrated working with us. And we need a good mechanism, or not, right? But like, we all need good mechanisms for providing feedback, so people don't get into passive aggressive or just dysfunctional sorts of working relationships. And all that stuff is as important or more important in a remote work environment where you do have a lower level of fidelity of communication that you're having with folks. Typically, you're not just going to bump into somebody at the quote unquote water cooler or at the coffee machine and be able to have like a sidebar, oh, hey, I didn't mean anything by that conversation kind of thing. And so what we do on all of our projects, but also within each of the, I'd say kind of like functional teams within our company. So our operations, our biz dev, our product management teams, as well as every one of our project teams with a client, we go through this process every couple of weeks where we try to filter out, again, just those positive feedback points and things that could be improved about the way we're all working together, to just make sure that the projects are going well. It's a good hygiene thing for project health. So what I thought would be helpful or interesting for us to do today would be to actually go through a bit of a round of this. And I'll share the way that we facilitate this at Tanuki is actually just with a Trello board. So I'll share that right now. But the part of the mentality of this for us is that our goal is to have this be as lightweight as possible, right? We don't want to have a lot of management tactics. You don't want to have a lot of overhead friction that makes these things hard to do. So we try to keep it dirt simple in that we have a Trello board with 5 columns, as you can hopefully all see here. The way it's structured is we have a set of discussion topics. So before the meeting, we ask anyone that has anything that they know they want to bring up and talk about specifically. Folks can drop into a discussion topics board. So then as we join, we're able to just hit those important items first.
Hey, Dave, can you hold for a second?
I can, yeah.
For some reason, I'm only seeing like a tiny sliver of your screen. Can you?
Yeah, me too.
Resharing it?
That'd be a
There we go.
All right.
Is that better?
computer
Oh,
monitor,
okay.
if that's your, there we go.
All right, I switched
Thanks,
between
Dave.
monitors, so I guess I won't do that again. Okay, sorry about that. So here is that screen, and hopefully everyone can see all the columns. So here's this kind of discussion topics. You could add a card. At the end of the meeting, we typically come out of it with a number of action items that we'll want to make sure that we complete before, or do at some point. We'll check in at the next one of these meetings that we have. But then the core of the exercise, and we think of it almost like a game, is to actually go around the room of all the participants and really just open-ended solicit folks to give feedback, either a smiley, which is something that's going well, or pat someone on the back for doing a good job, or anything positive about the project or anyone on the project or anything related to a project. These things we try to keep pretty open-ended so that folks can get the things that are on their mind out. And then we have these other columns over here, this little meh face and a frowny face. These are here for people to provide feedback that is, I'll call it constructive, right? Things that either could be going better, things that we're having problems with, if we see challenges with the project coming up, identifying those things here. The meh or the frowny, it could just be one negative column, but I think giving some degree of severity gives people a little way to express themselves too. So this has worked out pretty well for us. And yeah, and so what we tend to do is go around the circle. Everyone will throw out one thing at first, and then what we'll do is we open up the floor to have everyone, as thoughts come to them, just throw out ideas for things that they're happy about or things that could be improved. For the things that could be improved, we asked folks to just state the thing and not try to solve the problem at that moment. Because after we've all gone around once and then as many times as we have until the game pretty much ends, when there's a big pregnant pause and no one has any more things that they'd like to throw up, we'll go back through all these things in the meh and the frowny column, and then create either an action item. We'll address each of them individually, and then if there is an action item or some way to actually, something we should follow up on, we'll create a card for that, and then check back in on it in our next meeting to make sure that progress is being made on all these things that we've identified. So for today's purposes, we're not, the group here is obviously not all on one project together. We're not on the same company. We're not, maybe not even all Betaworks members, right? So we wanted to do something that we thought it would be helpful to talk about something as a group that we could all chime in on. So we'll see how this works with the Zoom as is. We may end up doing it in chat, or I don't know. Tony, are we able to unmute people easily, or can folks unmute themselves?
Yeah, I can unmute people, or you can. I give you co-host powers, so either way.
Okay, well, so what we're going to talk about, folks, is we're basically going to do a round of or two of this, talking about how we feel about virtual events, right? It's a little meta here for us to be, as we're in a virtual event right now, but I think this is something that we're all trying to figure out what's the right way to do this stuff going forward. And we all have things that we've liked and things that we don't like. And I think we'd all love to hear what others have experienced so far with the things that they've done. So that's what we'll talk about. So what we'll do is we'll go around and we'll ask folks to throw out any things that they think that they've noticed that go really well with virtual events. We'll put that in the smiley column, or things that they like about doing things virtually, or in the state that we're in, or what are things that we've noticed that can be improved about the way virtual events that we've participated in or run this event. Happy to take feedback, please. Or anything in general that we all think that could be improved, and maybe there's stuff that we could do in our own meetings to make them better. So I think what we'll typically do, so I don't know that we probably won't stick to the exact rules of this just because of the format. We'll see how it goes, but I will start first, I guess, by way of example here, and then we'll kind of go around. Maybe I'll ask you to go next, Tony, heads up. But I'm going to throw out a smiley, and I'm going to say, the thing about virtual events that I really like is that they're very accessible. It's very nice to be able to just join a link rather than have to actually physically go someplace. So that is a pro in some cases. Okay, cool. Tony, do you have any things you like or things you think could be improved about virtual meetings?
You know what? Maybe I'll just kind of I'll look out on the I'll look out on the cameras to see if anybody raises their hands, or if someone raises their hand in the chat, then I'll call on them next. But I'll say that I love that I get access to stuff that I wouldn't have before. So there's like all new kinds of content that's available to me that I couldn't have gotten previously. And is anybody raising their hand? Anybody else have? Nicola or Nicholas.
Yeah, hi, how are you? Thank you guys for today. This is great. I think one thing is sometimes I'm on some events that are going really well. They might go like a little bit over, and then I might have like another call or something after. So it's hard to kind of, you're not leaving a meeting. It's not the same kind of dynamic, and that at least I've seen as a negative. It's a good thing in that I get more information from what I'm trying to learn, but sometimes it creates just anxiety and other pieces around that because you have something into, you're kind of having to make quick decisions sometimes that you weren't used to in that same case.
Cool. Yeah, and part of this exercise is paraphrasing. So I'll try to paraphrase this, like maybe
sorry, that was a
lot. Just like concerns around feeling like you're missing things.
Like timing boundaries.
Or timing
Exactly.
boundaries.
Cool.
Awesome.
All right. Who else has something to share? I see you, Vol. You've raised your hand.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
It actually took me a second to figure out how to raise my hand for some reason, which is I have a positive and a negative. I feel like I can't add a negative without bringing a positive in. So my negative is like, I think that like tools aren't being used to their best ability. I think people are kind of just settling for, sure, we'll do it on Zoom, but they're not thinking creatively. I think that's why I wanted to join this, to just say, okay, what can we do that isn't just someone speaks at people and they're at Zoom. So like, and they're on the Zoom. So maybe just, the tools aren't being used great and they're kind of not as creative as they could be. But then my positive is kind of the opposite, which is I feel like people are down to explore anything right now. Like you're doing a dance party, people will show up. You're doing a yoga session, people will show up. Like people are just open to things, which is nice because as a community, people sometimes you have to convince people of that, but you don't have to do that these days.
Great. Thank you, Yuval. That's great. I'll just add a real common sad face, Dave, which is just Zoom burnout. Like the burnout is real. And actually, I'll throw in another one while we're on sad faces is ergonomics. We've got a lot of people who are working from home who do not have the right setup to work from home because they weren't planning on it. So I think a lot of people's postures are probably hurting real bad right now.
Plus one on that as I sit in an awkward like chair for a dinner table.
I have one. My happy face one would be that I feel like people are more relaxed on video calls that I've been having. So like clients that I would normally talk to on the phone, I feel like we're like more in professional mode because we're at work. But when we're doing Zoom meetings, I feel like people are a little bit more like in their environment, a little bit more relaxed. It's been a little bit chiller.
Looks like we got a hand raised. I'm trying to unmute.
Jumana?
Yep.
Yeah.
Got it. Can you hear me?
Yep. Got you.
A couple of builds. One to Yuval's, which is basically the idea that people, given that the people are down to do everything, I feel like it's a bigger opportunity for people who wouldn't connect actually in person, even if they shared space to connect. Because normally you're there with sort of your task list on and the things that you need to do, and it's harder to approach and engage people who are outside of that sphere of work. So I think it's kind of creating opportunities for people to connect who otherwise wouldn't, which is interesting because it's kind of like the opposite of what you expect from remote work. It actually is an opportunity to bring people closer together. On the negative side, I think that there is a tendency to, I don't know, somebody else has said this before, but a tendency to have presentations rather than engagements, to have, we haven't quite figured out a way to mimic what teamwork looks like. And I think on, boards like Trello and things like that, it still feels kind of like a handover. There isn't the friction that comes from overhearing somebody say something or think about something. So it's kind of like, how do we have Zoom on all the time, but also not feel like we're being watched all the time? This kind of weird balance.
Great. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Great.
Dave, we got about 5 minutes. So just so
all
you
right.
know,
So,
how are we doing? Want to get some more?
This might be good, I think, for us to maybe talk through. I think we've got a few items in here that might be good discussion topics. So, but if anyone has, we'll just real quick, if anyone has one that they're thinking of, and then we'll move on. Okay, maybe we don't have any. I'll throw out a smiley one that I like. I actually really like it when people's dogs and like children run out around. I think like the scavenger hunt thing. I think it's like really humanizing. So. People and pets in background.
Agreed.
Great. Cool. So this typically what will happen is we will have this kind of conversation go round and around until everyone kind of runs out of stuff to talk about. We'll just say we're there right now. And then what we'll do is go through, and for anything that's in the Matt or the Frowny column, we'll talk about each item and try to identify action items for ways of improving on that. So typically we'll ask the person whose it was to maybe expound a little bit and then kind of talk about if they have any ideas for solutions, and the group can kind of talk. I think we tend to start with the Frownies because those are, you know, a little more serious. So Tony, I think this one was yours, the Zoom burnout. Do you want to elaborate a little bit, and if there, maybe think if there's any topic or any solutions?
Yeah. So, you know, I think it's fairly self-explanatory. We started doing everything on Zoom, from work to play to talking to our loved ones and family members. And so we were all, before this crisis, we were already spending way too much time on our screens, and now we just made it like 5 times worse. So that's a problem. And it's particularly a problem as we try to figure out how to sustainably gather and forge meaningful connection. And as far as, are we talking about potential solutions? One potential solution, yeah, Juman is also talking about the concern of Zoom's privacy issue in the chat. And yeah, so, but one of the solutions is structuring our gatherings to be more efficient on terms of screen use. So could we have a shorter meeting that involves the screen and then longer stretches of time away from the screen to build off of the connection that we had? Or could we even use non-video ways of forging connection? Could we have people, you know, check in with each other over a text message? Or one of the things I'm very excited to be experimenting with, could we be having gatherings over just the telephone? Wouldn't that be crazy? So I'm very excited to excited to organize a entirely phone-based gathering sometime this month.
Love that. Awesome. Does anyone else? I mean, so that's like one item here. Does anyone else?
Jumana, yeah.
Yeah, I was just thinking that one of the things that Zoom makes super easy too is, in a way that old school telephone didn't, is to multitask. And I think that's one of the things that when people are on their computers, they're also looking at other things, they're writing things down, whereas when you had to have the old school kind of conversation, first of all, you were contained in space, like tethered to an area. And so your focus was actually on the person that you were talking to and not on all of the things you can do at the same time. I think that's one of the things now is like you have Zoom on and you're answering emails and you're, you know, normally the super old school way would be like, hold on, I have to go take care of this thing and I'll be back. And so you knew that when you were with somebody, you had them, you had their full attention. So I wonder if there's a way to actually put in rules about, or if there was some mechanism to say, when you're in Zoom, like you can't access any of the other things. You can't access your email or your browser or any of those things for the duration of this call, so that at least you're fully with people. Just a thought.
I like
Can't
that.
hear you. Oh, sorry, you're back. I
do have a quick solution for that, by the way, for anyone who's interested. It's not a total fix, but it could be just kind of a quickie for the one moment, which is, I learned this. Hands up, hands on chin. Now you can't be surfing on anything else unless you're really good at scrolling with your toes. So I've thought about trying to do something where we like, if there's a moment where we really want to ask for everyone's full attention, we ask for everybody to have both. Oh, no face touching. Yeah, I'm successfully sheltering in place. I think I'm safe, but I'll leave it to you to decide on that. You could do hands, just hands up, or hands like this. Hands visible is a good start. Anyway, go ahead, Dave. Sorry.
My niece's preschool is doing a daily class, and some of my best like tips and tricks are coming out of the preschool teachers. Like she's just really good at keeping people's attention who are 2 to 3 years old. So it's come in handy on these Zoom calls too. And she always does the hands up thing during story time if she thinks things are starting to happen.
I would add too. I mean, I've actually been interested in this, but I feel that I work with lots of, let's say, millennials, and I feel like in normal regular work life, there's always a problem of, in actual face-to-face meetings, people looking at their phones and sending emails during meetings. I'm actually personally seeing less of that now. When we're having team meetings, at least by insisting on video, as opposed to the phone call suggestion you made, by insisting on video, it feels like people are actually tuned into the meeting more and less likely to be doing work than I see even in real life. And I'm sure everybody's team matters differently there, but from like a internal work meeting perspective, I've seen that as being good.
That's a really great point, Ben.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Also, I've found that if you provided that you don't choose something that is too distracting, one way to keep people's attention to not be doing work is to use fun snap camera filters that cause them to pay attention to your screen while you're talking. Yeah.
Case in point, Ben, I'm loving the fish tank. I didn't see that one.
Oh, there's a lot of good ones.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Some of them are not really designed for work meetings, but there are a lot of good ones though.
So I'm a big
Dave,
fan. I've been using Snap Camera a lot. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, we're transitioning now into kind of like, we have like about 8 minutes until we get into wrap up mode. So we wanted to open it up for kind of general Q&A and discussion, which it sounds like we're kind of transitioning into anyway, but is there anything you want to do to help us wrap up this retro part of the conversation?
No, I think that was it. I mean, basically you would rinse and repeat that until you're all done. And then we find this is a good way to keep everyone engaged, happy, and make sure that issues are coming up before they, when they're small issues, rather than them getting into like big blow up problems that explode later on. So yeah, thank you all for the time. Go ahead, Tony.
Yeah, so I'll just say, I think that one of the things that is so great about the retro format is that it gets a lot done in a very compressed period of time. And so you can imagine with a team going through this process after a meeting or after a big event, they're able to really do a very detailed retro on how everything went, get all that information captured. Everyone feels that their voice was heard. Any major issues that need to be addressed get unearthed, and then you can sidebar those things. And so it's a really effective project management tool that can be done very quickly. And I've seen, Dave's team do this really well. So, and it's just using a very simple tool. So thanks, Dave, for that. Does anybody have any questions or reflections based on that experience? How's this landing for you? Is anybody seeing something that maybe they would be using for their team or wondering how they could map it to their team? Yeah, I'm seeing some heads nodding. Yuval, do you have a thought you want to share on that?
Yeah, I think a bunch of people have reached out just asking for help in their community, and then also at our company Jolt, where we run an online MBA. It's an in-person experience usually, where teachers video in, but we moved it all online, and I lead our community efforts there. And so we're doing all of our classes online and also all of our community stuff online. So we have to figure out how to make our community stuff not feel like a class, which is what a lot of people are using their community stuff for right now. And so I've just been kind of pumping in different ideas into different groups that are working on building community and trying to figure out if we do use Zoom, how do we use it in an engaging way? And if we don't, then what other tools there are. And so I'm actually just working on an article now, making that list, because I was doing a lot of Googling and there's not much out there right now. So yeah, it was helpful both for the article and both for me to share back with my team. And so I appreciate it.
Great, thanks, Yuval. So we had a question come through in the chat from Joy about when do you find icebreakers like scavenger hunts to be effective versus ineffective? When are they best used? I would say that just off the top of my head, I think they're most useful when you're when there's a reason for you to create connection between the people in the room. So in this case, it was largely for demonstration purposes. But for example, last week, I co-ran an event called the Joy List Social, which is all about people who want to make new friends, which is normally an in-person event, but we're now doing it online. So the whole point there is that people want to forge meaningful connection. And in that case, we have them actually go into breakout rooms using Zoom and like share with each other and listen. And we practice kind of active listening and like deep connection activities. But in a context where maybe we need to be more mindful of the fact that people need to get out of the meeting quickly because they have a bunch of other stuff going on. Or if the nature of the event is such that what we actually want is just to impart knowledge, let people consume passively and not try to, bug them too much, then we might try to just, hang back on it. And there are some scale, issues if, depending on the size of the audience, larger audiences, you have to be careful about that. We also got a question in from Paula about breakout rooms. Is that a feature of Zoom? This is actually a feature of Zoom, and it is super cool. I can show you how it works, but we probably don't have time to really do it justice. But I can basically press a button and divide all of you up into any number of breakout rooms that you all basically it like kicks you to another Zoom room with just those people, and then I can pull you back into this room. And it's super, super cool. There's so many fun things you can do with that. Steve asked if there's any ideas to break up the day and keep people engaged if people are organizing a day-long Zoom event. Steve, are you organizing a day-long Zoom event? You want to tell us more? Sorry, I need to unmute you. We're unmute battling each other. Okay, go.
Seems like a lot of real world events, case in point, are getting canceled, and a lot of things are migrating to virtual. And that kind of coincided with me doing these virtual panel discussions concept that I was developing. It's now all of a sudden accelerating to, I'm going to have a weekly schedule of events. Initially one, hour-long events, hour and a half long events, mostly in the mindfulness, wellness space, maybe some business things too. I'm a captive audience, and there's a big captive audience. And I just feel like it's, especially Zoom is pretty stable. I don't want to jinx it, but, even just a year or two ago, trying to do something virtual or online, you need a whole tech stack that, and 5 people, or maybe a few years ago. So, so that's kind of what I'm looking at, to do things efficiently, and also, figure out how to monetize it. That's another question.
Yeah, well, and I actually believe that we're going to start treating remote conferences almost more like television productions, because to do it well, you actually need a team, somebody who's working like emceeing, who's on screen doing the talent, that kind of thing, and then somebody who's behind the scenes who is managing the cameras and the chat and the tech infrastructure of that. You'll see how even in this meeting, you'll see that certain people got spotlit where they were going full screen, where it's like we're changing cameras. So all kinds of stuff there. And Elisa, thanks for joining. But in terms of breaking up the event, I think what you're going to look at. So I ran a conference last year, an online conference, and we actually did it asynchronously. So we had it where we released pre-recorded talks each day, and then people could watch them on their own time. Jumana, thanks for joining. Thanks for the kind note. So things like that. But I would also say that you actually break up the day. So you create chunks of time. Like in my dream scenario, you have a synchronous event where there's some kind of live stream. But then when that live stream, when it's time for breaks, you give people, like you put up a slide like we put up at the start of this event, where there's some kind of imagery. And maybe like a conversation prompt for people who want to stick around and chat, some background music, whatever, and like maybe even a countdown timer of like next talk with such and such name begins in 5 minutes, and and then, give people some designated sense of they have time to go take care of their needs and that kind of thing. But the other thing is, if you can, I haven't figured out how to do this technically yet, but I'd be very curious to figure out how to do it, is if you can give people access to an audio stream, audio only. We had a lot of people that wanted to consume the content while walking around their house without having to be like square on the video. So stuff like that. Anyway, there's a lot we could talk about on that, but I would just design it, with that in mind. And if you want to talk more about it, that's exactly what I want to be working with people on. So thanks. Any other last minute questions before we get into the wrap up? I don't know that we have 4 minutes worth of wrapping up to do, but what else? So let me throw this out there. Is there anything that anybody's trying to figure out right now as far as creating, better connection amongst your team or creating a more meaningful event that maybe you can just throw out to us right now that we can talk about, kind of like we just did with Steve?
I can throw one out.
Yeah.
I've been doing like a quick happy hour daily just for people to drop in. And it's been good so far, but it's not like a consistent event for people. It's kind of consistent for me. And it's not like a traditional happy hour. Like I usually drink seltzer unless it's like a Friday. But something that we could do to make that more fun would be helpful or more exciting. It is totally just an engagement thing. It's not like a work related thing. It's just a socialization and culture building thing. But I'd love to hear suggestions on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I know, for me, one of the things we've done recently, aside from everything we've talked about already, there's lots of fun remote games that you can play now. There's trivia games. We have my friends and I now have a standing Clue night that we do on Friday nights. And so what happens is we just get on Zoom and hang out, but then we all get the iOS app of Clue, the official Clue app, and then you can all log in from your phones and everyone just plays it on their phone while we're trash talking on Zoom. And there's actually a resource. There's a bunch of resources that have come out recently. I'm gonna paste one in now, and if I can find more, I will let you. I'll pass them in. You've also mentioning Cards Against Humanity. Is there an online version of that, Yuval? Or I guess everyone could just use their paper versions, I guess, if everyone has it. Oh, Yuval's saying yes. Yes, there is. That's cool. Very good.
Love
Anybody else seen any good ones recently?
I've done something fun.
Sorry, what's that, Betsy?
Oh, sorry. My friends and I have been doing something fun. We've been doing theme parties. So like we show up like dressed up kind of like from the neck up for these kinds of things. Like we had celebrities and apocalypse themed, and we dressed as Mad Max. Like that was a little dark, but it's fun.
That's cool. I like that a lot.
So I just realized we're out of time. So I'll just say, I'll throw it back to Kit in a second, but thank you all for taking the time to join us. I'm just going to drop some links in the chat to me and to GoRemote. And we would love to talk to you if there's anything that came up here that you think might be of use, or if you know anybody trying to do an online event or online team building, or just take their team remote and needs help, send them our way. We'd love to talk. And thanks again to Kit and the Betaworks Studios team. Kit, any last minute things you want to share with everybody before we go?
No, but thank you guys all for coming. Keep an eye on our calendar page. I'll post it in the chat as well. We have a ton of events. Like I'm booking things like a mad woman. So we'd love to see you guys at more events. And if you're looking for anything in particular, feel free to let me know. I'll throw my email in here too. And I'm happy to set something up. Love your ideas. That's about it.
Great. All right. Well, thanks everybody. Oh, before we go, let's do one last activity. If you got your screen on 3, we're going to do a high five. So I'm going to just need one hand up on the screen. All right. And ready. 3, 2, 1. High five. Thanks everybody. Have a great day. Take care.
Bye guys.
Bye.